What are you doing, loose? Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is January 10th. Going in. Alright. 2018. You see over here we had some pretty blue skies today. A little overcast over here, but not terrible. But very nice day overall. I think it actually hit 40 today. So we have had some melting. You can see on the roof the snow's melting off there, so that's not a bad thing. So just doing a couple of things around the homestead today. Changed the oil out in the generator. You should change it every 100 hours. So I put that off for a couple extra days just because of the weather. I figured today's going to be decent, so I went out there and I changed it out today, so that's done. I went out in the outbuilding where I store my motorcycle, and I fired that up and let that run for about 10 minutes, and it started right up with no problem. So I just wanted to, because after all that cold weather we've had, it's just been sitting in there, and I have to go out and talk to my bike too because I miss it. But no, it's funny. It's like this time of year. I mean, I think I rode once in December. Yeah, I rode once in December, and then it was like that was done, and the weather changed, and so it was like no riding at all after that. Obviously here in New York, so I'm like, well, now we gotta wait. So, but since it was decent today, I went out, like I said, and fired it up and warmed it up for a little while just to make sure everything was copacetic with that. And so that's what I did with that. So that's done, and just kind of a low-key type of day. Not really a lot happening today at the homestead. Just, you know, little minor stuff, you know. Excuse me. Then I gassed up the generator after I changed the oil, so that's all. Like I said, it's all ready to go now. And I'm looking forward to a day when I just can look at the generator and go, okay, you're there for a backup, and not have to worry about that for power. So okay, so I wanted to talk today. I wanted to do a video on this topic, and I thought it would be important to do. When is the time to bug out, or when is the time to stay put? Okay, and of course, obviously this all really depends on where you're at and what your location is at, and if you have a bug out location to go to. I mean, those things are kind of important. If you're just going to leave and aimlessly wander, that's probably not a good plan. You probably need to, you know, make a plan to start with. That would be helpful. But let's say you have a bug out location, and when do you decide to leave? I mean, and do you do any dry runs ahead of time? You know, those are kind of things that are important too. Making the call, okay, we need to pack up the car and get out of Dodge, you know, and also, like I said, making some dry runs ahead of time. So I think let's talk about dry runs to begin with. I think dry runs are really, really important because it gets you in that mindset where you go, okay, how long does it take us to pack up what we need to take in the car? Or what you can take in a car, I should say, or if you have a trailer to go along with it, how long does it take you to pack all that stuff up? Knowing how long it takes you to pack that stuff is going to be important, because that gives you a window of time frame of what you're looking at. And, you know, making that dry run, see how long it takes you. Have alternate routes on how to get to your bug out location, and you know, figuring which way you want to go. Is the traffic bad this way? Do we get off this exit and go a different way? Those type of things. Knowing your route, having several different ways to get to your bug out location is going to be really, really important. And you know, so knowing how to do it, how long it's going to take you in a decent dry run, and then you got to figure if you're deciding when to bug out, if things are starting to get hairy. And even if, you know, like I said, you decide, okay, let's say it's Wednesday and things are not looking good and you have the weekend off already. So you said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and get our stuff and bug out and go to our bug out location. So you pack up all your stuff, you take a couple days off from work, call in sick, whatever you need to do. And and you get up and you get out of Dodge. Now let's say it's a false alarm and nothing's going on, and so then you reload everything on Sunday and you come back, and it gives you a, number one, it gives you a good opportunity to find out, you know, what worked, what didn't work, and those type of things. But also, if it is that worst case scenario and you need to get out of Dodge, you know, how long did it take you to get there? Did you run into any trouble? You know, were you prepared enough? Did you have enough gasoline? Did you factor in maybe you need extra gas for maybe you're stuck in traffic and you can't move? I mean, that would be like the absolute freaking worst as far as I'm concerned. Staying off the main highways in that type of situation when you know if the roads are going to be flooded with people. Now, if it's just your gut feeling that you need to get out of Dodge and the roads are normal, then you just take the normal roads, obviously. But if there's a lot of people deciding it's time to get out of Dodge, like I said, one of your alternate routes is definitely going to be the way to go. So having that in mind, you know what I mean. And so when do we make that decision? I mean, how bad do things got to be before you decide to bug out? And those are things that you really truly need to think about, because here's the thing is, let's say you get to your bug out location, you get all your stuff unloaded and stuff like that, and then you go, man, I think I got time to maybe go back and get another load of stuff. Now that might be a possibility, but you need to plan that you can never go back. That's the plan that needs to be in place. So you got to make sure that you have enough stuff on site at your bug out location, number one. And number two, you need to make sure that when you make that trip, that you are basically taking everything that you need to take on that trip. And that's one of the things that I always used to think about before, you know, we actually moved here to the homestead. I used to think, my goodness, if I basically had my truck and the wife's, she had an Outback, you know, if we, station wagon is what she basically had, but if we just had those two vehicles to load up, I would have had to leave so much stuff behind, and that was just disheartening. I'll be honest with you, it was really, really disheartening. So, you know, once we made that move and we moved down here, and it's funny, I look back at it now, and I kind of with a lot of, you know, it's ironic. The day that we moved down here, and we had, the shop was completely full of stuff, and we had, the camper was completely full of stuff. I remember saying to myself that day, okay, if S.H.T.F happens tomorrow, at least all our stuff is here, you know. And so that was definitely, you know, something, you know, it was such a relief on my part. The biggest thing, if you can do it, guys, and you know, I mean, everybody, not everybody can, but if you can do it, to live at your bug out location full time, then all you got to worry about is getting home, because all your stuff is there, you know, and that's really, really, that's a really big thing. And you know, obviously in the 2.5 years plus now that we've been living here, it's just you know, we've acquired so much more stuff. We now have another building, obviously, for our house, and you know, have added more tools and just everything else, and it's unbelievable, you know, how things have changed. We have another outbuilding, obviously, over there where the bike sits in there, you know, and you know, now we're in the process of building that chicken coop, and you know, there's a lot going on. So it's pretty wild. It's really, really wild, honestly, to look back now and go how unprepared I was when we first got up here as compared to now, and how much further I need to get to, you know. So those are things to think about as well. But you know, knowing when to leave is really, really important. It's okay to leave early and have it be a false alarm. Just call it a nice practice run. But you know, realizing what you need to take, what you have to leave behind, you know, what can you store at your bug out location. One of the big things obviously you have to worry about if you're not living at your bug out location full time is theft, and worrying about people stealing your stuff. So those are things as well. But it's definitely something to think about. I definitely want your feedback on this, guys. I want to hear what your thoughts are. When do you decide to leave? I mean, how bad does it have to be before you go, okay, it's time to get out of Dodge? So those are things I want you to think about. Have you made some practice runs? You know, have you tested it out to see if, okay, yeah, this worked or that didn't work, and those type of things, you know. So those are important, and I think it's really something that we need to think about. But when do you leave, and where are you going? Okay, do you have a plan? And if you don't, you better try to figure one out. That's really important. Okay, so anyway, guys, listen. Like I said, it's not a bad day here today. It's pretty nice. But now it's starting to cloud up a little bit, so I'm thinking they're calling for rain later, I think tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. But we're looking at now, I think they were saying it's going to be like 50 tomorrow and almost 60 on Friday. So crazy. But anyway, so what's today's Wednesday now? Yeah, so we're halfway through the week, and I hope everybody's doing well. Remember, guys, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. Oh, I did get a package in the mail too, so I'm not going to grab that today, but I will show that probably in tomorrow's video. So I did get something in the mail, another flag, so I will show that in tomorrow's video. But anyway, remember, guys, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to reach or accomplish, you can do it. And the only one that can stop you from doing that is yourself, okay? Nobody else can stop you from that, okay? So anyway, that's something to think about. And life is way too short to be unhappy. If you are unhappy, change your situation. And it is as easy as that. I mean, you know, people say, oh, it's not that easy. Yeah, it is. You know, it's... you know, and I'm going to go back to a story here real quick, and I'll tell you this real quick. When I left my first wife, and I knew I was never going back, and I spent a couple days at my sister's place, and then I got an apartment, and literally, we ended up having this major snowstorm after I left, and I couldn't get my stuff. I had it all in storage, and for like 2 weeks I couldn't get my stuff out of storage. So I was staying at my apartment. I was sleeping on the floor. But it was for probably, I would say, the first 6 weeks that I was in my apartment, I was on a euphoric high because I knew I was never going to have to deal with the stupid stuff that I was dealing with again. And that was a great feeling, absolutely wonderful feeling. And realistically, you know, if you're unhappy, you need to change what you're doing. So on that note, guys, listen, I'm going to jump off here, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. I hope everybody's doing well. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.